Hi guys, Ryuu here from Blender Bros, and in this video I'm going to show you how to add details to your models, how to understand the detail balance and what it's all about. Let's go. So I'm going to give you a simple example here and show you how detail placement works. Let me just clean the scene here. Let's just add a cube, and we're going to scale it and scale it in the y-axis. Okay, so SY. Create something like this, maybe a bit wider. And we're going to cut it just a little bit, okay? So, let's just grab an angle here and Shift V and enable this view align ortho. And we're going to start cutting here with an angle like this. And we're gonna start cutting a shape here a little bit and boom, shift click. In fact, what I want to do is I want to bevel this here as well, and maybe I'm going to move this a bit, so GX, and kind of move it in here like this, and maybe move this face here on these two edges a little bit to the middle, kind of like that. And then we're going to hold shift, alt X, hold shift, and mirror to both sides. Okay, just a quick interjection here. We have a fantastic free course for anyone who would like to progress in the knowledge of Blender. It's called Hard Surface Jumpstart. It's free, it's on our website, link in the video description, and it will teach you so much about hard surface, give you such a nice boost to your studies that you will not believe. It's free. Go ahead and grab it and enjoy. Now here on top of that, what we can do is add a circle here in the middle. So let's just click on this option here and change this cutter to circle, and we're going to add a circle here in the middle. You could go outside if you wanted to, like this, press J to join it and create this kind of a shape here on top, and we can just drop it down to the surface level. We can fix it later, don't worry about it, and just mirror to the bottom. In fact, what we could do is Alt X and just mirror to the bottom like that. Cool. So we can apply this, this cut here. But before we do that, let's actually cover this first cutter. Okay, this one. So I have a scroll and this cutter. And we're going to open up this cut here on the side. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a cut here like this. And kind of open it up like that here from the side. Okay. It's going to look a little bit more interesting. Cool. So let's apply everything by clicking sharpen. And we're going to, run some bevels here, okay? So bevels here and bevels here, here, and here. And then we're just gonna simply mirror to the other side. So Control B that. You can see that this one doesn't work. What you need to do here is run edges here, like that. And we're gonna have to align this. So Alt A and align it with machine tools, and let's just mirror to the bottom. And now we're going to be able to run a bevel here with Blender, Control B option. So select these and Control B that, there you go. And just create this, subtle bevel here, nothing crazy. One more time, something like that. And here too we need a bevel. So what we need to do is connect these two together. So I'll just grab a loop here and move it up with Alt A, again machine tools. If you don't know how to use machine tools, I have a video on that, massive tutorial. And now we're going to mirror to the bottom, to the left, and to the right. Okay, clean the junk here because there's a lot of junk here. So we're going to use for that operations and clean mesh with hardos, which will clean all these unnecessary edges. Okay, and now see, we got this very basic shape. Okay, now we can also bevel this, and weight it normals. Now it is very basic shape. Now, if you wanted to start detailing this, okay, you need to look at the overall shape of what you have. Okay, you need to look at the overall shape of what you have, and you need to start thinking, where are the areas of contrast? Where are the areas of shadows and highlights, which basically means details. So you got all these areas here. There's a lines, there's a line here. There's some kind of a bevel. There's a planar shift, which means the angle of the face shifts. The planar angle shifts. There's a planar shift. You got planar shift here. You got a planar shift here. So you got a lot of detail in this area, right? So what you want to do, you want to maximize that area. Okay, you want to sort of utilize that area here and concentrate details in this area. Okay, so What we could do, for example, here is, for instance, we could add some kind of, some kind of like a mounting screw detail, okay, something like this. We will need to run some edge here that will kind of fix the shading problem. There you go. This is all mirrored, so we don't have to worry about it, right? It's mirrored to all sides. So with this boolean here, we could recall this and, for example, run a chamfer here. So let's Alt-N and flip this face. And we could just bevel it outside like this, create a chamfer here, which is going to be pretty cool. And you see that creates that additional detail here, right? And then you can start adding more stuff. You could, for example, add something here on the side, or you could add some cuts in here in this area. So we could, for example, keep stacking these details. And let's say add something in here like this, okay? Cut it a little bit, or even go through that shape here to the middle, and you get concentration of details in this area, right? Then what you can do, you can keep building on that, and if you look from above, you can clearly see that there's a concentration of details here. And if I started to place details everywhere, okay, like I'll just make a cut here, cut in the middle. You just don't know where to look. It's a mess. There's a detail everywhere. You want to concentrate details in areas that require more sort of attention, require more refining, okay? So for example, what I would like to do is leave these areas here empty and maybe focus on detailing here on the edge, okay? So what I could do, for example, is run this kind of a detail here, okay? Press B for bevel and just cut through it, right? And create a detail here on the top. And you see that now we got this anchor of contrast, because when you render this, right, if there's a cut going really deep, it's going to create a lot of shadowy areas here because it's going really deep, which means when I'm going to turn, cycles on, you can see there's a shadow here, right? So you're going to get these contrasty areas because of these cuts, okay? Same here, see there's a shadow because there's a cut going deep. If this cut was shallower, okay, so if I'm going to move it up, okay, and make it more shallow, you see the shadows becoming less and less visible, okay? Now it's kind of flattish, and there's a bit of a detail, but it's not so intrusive, as opposed to this. You see what I mean? So even depth of a cut is important. Okay, let me just fix this cut here because this shading gives me a freaking arseache. Let me select that and just run an edge here to this cut here one more time. What the hell? Oh, never mind. From here, there we go. Boom, right? And there you go. Here, for instance, we have this, circular element around. What we could do is inset this a little bit, right? Inset it a bit more, okay? And we could just run a small cut here on the edge like that and just inset it in. And you gotta get this nice rounded detail. There's also a detail, okay? Only because it's just going around something doesn't mean it's not a detail, right? Detail doesn't have to be super small. You got different types of details. When you're designing something, you want to go slow. You want to kind of look at the entire structure of your model, and you want to think whether you need to add more of large details or you can just start adding smaller details. Because, for example, this cut here is a kind of a mid-sized detail, but this cut here on the side and this chamfer here, that's kind of like a secondary detail. It's a detail on top of a detail, and that kind of brings even more attention. Because you concentrate shadowy areas here, you concentrate, there's a concentration of contrast areas of planar shifts, angle shifts and all that in this region. Another thing you want to pay attention to is echoing, okay? You want to echo the angles and sort of shapes all over your place. Like for instance, we got this massive circle here, which is sort of engulfed and sort of, framed by this kind of a circular chamfer, but then you have other circular elements here around. You got, kind of soft corners because they're slightly beveled, so they're also circular in a way, and these cuts are also circular. So when you design something, make sure you're consistent with your design. So let's apply mirror operations and multiply, and we're going to hold Control and create a shape here. Hold Alt to change the the ratio, and we're going to cut it in. Just B and Shift T to taper it and create something like this. Maybe E, make it a bit less deep, so kind of flatter. And click, and then let's just recover that. It's a little bit too deep. Make it kind of shallow. And also what we could do is scale it on Y, sorry, on X. There you go, and move it somewhere here to the front. And now, because we have this cursor in the middle here, what we can do is go to Mesh Tools and Control-click on Radial Array, and scroll to 3 segments. Now, watch this. If I have only 3 details, the whole area looks kind of clean and calm, right? But the moment I'm going to start, introducing more of these elements, this middle part is going to become really busy. Okay, you see what I'm pointing? Look at this versus the other one, right? So when you create something, always think when you really need all these cuts, when you really need all these details, is it too much? Okay, you need to kind of feel the balance of everything. Okay, feel the balance of all these elements where they play together or they don't. On top of that, what we could do is create more details here in the middle. So we could, for example, run some cuts here that are gonna echo these angles here, right? So we could create more, interesting shapes here going like this. I can go deep here like that. That's cool. I'll show you a cool trick in a minute with a cutter. So hold Control here and just, align this here, more or less. Press B for bevel, scroll, and then simply cut through. Now what we're going to do is we're going to recover this circular shape, and we're going to fix this angle here. Okay, so Alt H and Shift 2. Grab this cutter here and this cutter here, right? Go to local view. I'm going to Shift D that and scale it, right? And make it larger. And we're going to cut this one, so booleans and difference. Let's go back. Now we can scale this cutter a little bit and create this kind of like a cool cutout. And here now, maintain more or less the size of this, the distance of the, between the edges, even. It's going to look a bit better. This cutter needs a bit of adjustment. You can see clearly here that this corner is not aligned properly. So GX, and I just moved a little bit here to align it. And there you go. Let's grab this cutter. Let's apply this. Okay, so we're going to, operations multiply. And we're going to run a bevel here on these. Okay, so we're going to grab these two and these two. And we're going to run a bevel here, okay, like this, right? So it's going to kind of match with, with the others. This one could be a little bit more smooth. So let's go back and let's actually remove this edge here, right? And we're going to create a larger bevel here. So, Control B and maybe some laser kind of, matches here. And this one as well could be larger. So go to the top view and create something smoother here, okay? And that looks pretty cool to me. So we can now mirror this, and instead of mirroring everything across, so, to both sides, because it's quite symmetrical, why don't you do something asymmetrical? So just leave it on one side and the other one's going to be calm and clean. See what I mean? So you're going to get this situation here, but on the other side, it's going to be a little bit more calm and sort of refined, okay? On top of that, we could run some, we could run some chamfers here. So click, Alt, click, and run a chamfer on this. We could run a chamfer here. Could be larger, could be smaller. It depends on what you're really after. You could run a chamfer here as well. Okay. And you're gonna get these nice planar shifts here. And this is also a detail, guys. Okay. So you may not think it's a detail, but it's a planar shift. It's gonna create a detailing, sort of a detailed area. Okay. It's a detail that is really subtle because it's just a chamfer. But trust me, the light's going to reflect from it and it's going to create interest. So, sometimes less is more, okay? And you see we're getting this really interesting shape here. Now, I'm not crazy about this cut here. We could close it if you wanted to. But to be honest, I can't be bothered. So we can leave it like that. And here in the back, you could just, do something different. Maybe we could embed some kind of a cylinder in the back. So what we could do is grab a cylinder and move it to the back, and in fact, let's just increase the number of verts. So maybe we could grab a cylinder here and decrease the number of verts to like maybe 80. I know it's going to be too much. RY 90 to rotate it. GY, move it in here and scale it in, and do something like this and move it in here like that, and create a really interesting sort of a cut here going through these bevels. And we need to apply some, some stuff to it. There we go. Let's just sharpen that, and we can boolean this. So boolean and union, then we're gonna apply that. So operations multiply. And we're gonna run a chamfer here. So offset cut. It's gonna be with the Mesh Machine. If you don't have Mesh Machine, you know, you should get it because it's phenomenal and it really will change the way you think about, you know, what you can do, you can't do in Blender in terms of bevels. Here too, click, alt click, and we could just run an offset cut. It doesn't have to be so big, but you know, I just want to make it kind of subtle. And alt X to the other side, and you're good to go. And you got this really cool detail here, kind of like a welded, you know, welded detail. You could just mirror to the other side and, you know, kind of create an opening here. Could grab this bit here, and maybe instead of bevel, you could run a chamfer just for the hell of it. Here too, run a chamfer. And there you go. And you got, you know, different front and different back. And this is an interesting piece. And you see that we detailed that, but it's not overwhelming. And now on top of that, you could have, for example, some kind of like a serial number here in the bottom. Now everything is symmetrical. So let's say that, you know, except for these, well, these are symmetrical as well. But let's say you wanted to break the symmetric and do it with a very simple, you know, kind of like a engravement or like emboss details. So you could just go here to text, and we're just gonna go with the default text. Okay, so let me bother it. So let's just type here, you know, 701, something like this, or 709, right? Yeah, something like this. And we can do is change it to, you know, Control A Visual to Mesh. And then we can clean it, so operations and clean mesh, and then we can run solidification on it. So run solidification, and we can just, you know, bring it somewhere here as Y, scale it on the Y-axis, and literally drop this kind of like a number here somewhere on the bottom. You can just offset it, you know, and we can just cut it in, right? So, you know, difference, right? And you gotta get this kind of a really nice offset element here, which basically breaks the symmetry. Is a nice detail. Now, if you see, if I put it in the middle here, it just would ruin everything, because what I could do, you know, is put it somewhere here and make it huge, right? And that would be basically creating a detail that's out of scale, okay? I mean, you know, this could work as well, but then if I did that, you see, I have no calm spaces. Everything is busy, okay? There's busy here, busy everywhere. This actually allows me to create this kind of like a calm, a very smooth area that nothing really happens, and it kind of leads me to this, and then leads me here and here, and looks much more interesting. Details are asymmetrical, so they kind of, you know, give you a different sort of a look of this object from different perspectives and different angles, which is cool as well. Look at the overall shape of your model, okay? Just like we're dealing with problems, you need to look at the overall issue first, and then deal with small things, and everything falls into place. The same thing with modeling, guys, okay? Start with a blockout, and, you know, then look at the model and think, well, maybe here I could add something, because I can see some concentration of angles and contrast. Always go to, you know, to cycles and pop some matte on it, right? So let me go here to kit ups, to hard ups, and I'm gonna use the updated pack from Cheap Walter Mattes, cycles and EV Mattes. Go to the links in video description. There is a link to this pack to Cheap Walter's site on Gumroad or Blender Market. You can grab them, and you know, they're fantastic. It's a one-click deal. And when I do that, you can clearly see how these shadowy areas look, right? If these cuts weren't going through, this would be much of a shallower impact, like here. But because they go through, there's like a pitch black shadow, right? Now you understand. It's the, you know, it's the occlusion, and that's how it works. So the larger the opening, the less deep the shadow is going to be. But when you create, you know, these kind of cuts all over the place, your object's going to look really busy, okay? So you want to go easy on that. So you can see clearly, like these cuts here, they act as anchors, and they kind of visually guide you across the entire object. Whereas these in the middle are kind of, they're less impactful. These are a bit more aggressive, but also, you know, kind of larger elements as well. Here too, you got some massive elements on the side. What you could do is you could mitigate that, but, you know, to be honest, when I'm going to be shooting it from this angle, this shadow is going to be offset nicely by these shadows as well. These are in the middle, and they're leading you back and forth. And these are anchors, so everything is, you know, everything looks great. From this angle, the same thing. You got massive elements here, but you got also interest here. You got this text, you're going to be drawn to it. So this design is balanced, you know, it's very simple, but it's balanced, okay? So this is how you how you should start thinking about your models, how you should start thinking about designing and details. Kind of look at your model from the bird's eye view and and think whether I really need to add something there. Should I make it symmetrical? You know, should I add something different on this side? Will it fit? You know, so there you go. That's how it works. Alright guys, well that's it for this one. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll